Comcast is delivering extraordinary experiences in live sports through the incredible broadcast and storytelling from NBC, innovative and personalized viewing features on Xfinity and Peacock, and the country's most reliable Wi-Fi. Viewers can enjoy every game-changing play faster and more seamlessly than ever, all on a network built to deliver unforgettable moments as close to live as possible. The ultimate experience for the American sports fan. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/sports.
It's the Smucker's Uncrustables podcast with your host, Uncrustables. Okay, today's guest is rough around the edges. Please welcome Crust.
Thanks for having me.
Today's topic, he's round with soft, pillowy bread.
Hey.
Filled with delicious PB&J.
Are you talking about yourself?
And you can take him anywhere.
Why'd you invite?
And we are out of time.
Are you really cutting me off?
Uncrustables are the best part of the sandwich. Sorry, Crust.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in, boys and girls. It's May 15th here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined, as always, by Matthew. All I'm going to do is win bets.
It is time, Kyle, for the win totals they've been asking. The folks on Twitter, in the chat rooms, in the YouTube comments, on the street, at the grocery store.
The AOL chat room.
They're all asking, where are the locks of the year? Last year, we felt great about those Raiders, man. What a team. Go Raiders. If I was a listener of this show, what I would do is fade every single pick. No, I'm just kidding. Man, win totals have been so good to us over the years. It's one of my favorite markets to kind of invest in because you get, obviously what we do. We care so much about props, fantasy, DFS, that sometimes we miss the ball takes. We're too worried about the target shares and the yards per route run, and Kyle's charting success rate versus cover 3. We forget that we're talking ball. We're talking team level stuff, which I love to do. So I'm excited to break that down today. It should be a lot of fun. I think we were talking before we recorded, we have like 3 or 4 that we feel pretty good about from the AFC, but I was thinking about it, going through all these teams, and I was like, man, most of my strong takes are actually on the NFC. So we'll talk AFC today, and then I have some, hopefully, good advice for next week. But I'm excited to get some angles out today. I know you put in a lot of work, Kyle, with your schedule-adjusted metrics.
Yeah, there's colors. There's colors everywhere in my spreadsheets, which makes it a fun look at. But if you're new to this market, I would say that win totals is a nuanced conversation that over the years we've had a lot of fun getting to talk about on this podcast right throughout the year, kind of see the ebbs and flows of certain teams. Who could forget? One of the first years we did this, we cashed in on the Cardinals under, it was like November, and we were just, Andy, Mike, and Jason just sitting on them, farting, just telling them what to do.
That was back when Kyler was still considered good. Way back in the day. Cliff was there. I remember that.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if, depending on how you look at football, there's lots of different angles. There's lots of different formats, right? Like we talk about best ball, DFS, betting, redraft, dynasty, all of them. For win totals, we are trying to tell a story and find out the route based on what these sports books are saying. Here's the line. We're not trying to say, are these teams good or bad? We're saying, is the line good or bad? And is there room for us to exploit it? I remember last year, it was kind of against the Lions in this episode, and some people came out of the woodwork saying hey, why do you think the Lions are going to be bad? It was more of, here's the expectation, here's the schedule, let's walk through that. Spoiler alert, I really like the Lions this year.
Yeah, we were big time sellers in the Lions last year. We had the under on their win total. We had plus 200, awesome bet to miss the playoffs. And like you said, the conversation on this stuff is not these teams are good, these teams are bad. It's that's all baked into the line. What you're trying to ask yourself is how repeatable were the results of last year? Some teams had insane injury luck, or good or bad, right? Injury luck in either direction, turnover luck, a quarterback probably facing regression, just stuff like that. Or the thing that we always harp on is the schedule, right? I mean, last year we talked for months about the Patriots schedule, and that came to fruition. We also mentioned on the show, with the Eagles, It was an amazing Super Bowl run. This year is going to be a lot harder. It's harder to replicate success. We saw them have issues. We cashed their under last year. So there's ebbs and flows to this, and there's also different ways to attack win totals. The nice thing about the way that this is presented, I think, is our conversation today will let people kind of invest the way that they want to. Like if you cash, minus 115 on an over or under on a win total, it's like, okay, that's great. But if you see like a ceiling for a team, you could take them to win the division. You could take them to win the NFC or whatever the conversation might be. So there's different ways to attack this, but hopefully we can give you guys all of our notes and information here and hopefully cash a few more tickets. Last year was very good to us. I know the Raiders one is one that sticks out because it was the first one we took and that did not work, but we cashed quite a few last year and hopefully we can do the same this year.
We will do AFC this week and then NFC next week. It's wild to think that we've in the past done this episode. We've done all 32 teams. Dumb idea. Whose idea was that?
Corporate. Always
really?
Corporate, dude.
They're trying to, really up the numbers, and they thought, man, what if we did an episode where all 32 teams are in it?
That's what they thought that was a good idea. I was like, I don't know, man, that seems like too much, but you know how they are. They just get a little pushy. They want the numbers the way that they are. They really push us with the stuff.
I do have a giveaway that I want to mention at the top. This is Dynasty Week on the main podcast. Betz and I recorded a Dynasty podcast with Mike on Wednesday, but we wanted to make sure that our DFS and betting listeners get in on this. We are giving away a signed James Cook jersey, Jimbo Cook. And the way to enter is if you go to ultimatedraftkit.com, you get in on the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus, which is how you get access to all of our stuff for best ball, the DFS pass, all of our in-season props, everything else, UDK Plus members, or if you are an Ultimate Foot Clan member, you are automatically entered. So if you're already a UDK Plus subscriber, buyer, guess what? You're already entered in as well. But if you want to get in on this, we're going to have some more giveaways throughout the summer. Betz and I might even do a couple of giveaways on the podcast where we give away some free t-shirts, maybe a signed t-shirt from Betz.
Dude, I would love a signed t-shirt from you, Kyle. That would go up on the wall behind me.
Do you remember when the Falcons drafted Penix?
Who could forget?
I know. The Ballers bought 2 jerseys that day immediately.
I remember this.
And then they made me sign one, a Michael Penix jersey with my name on it, and send it out to someone. I felt so bad for what they got.
One man's trash, another man's treasure, Kyle.
Yeah. No, it's anyway, ultimatedraftkit.com. This is a real James Cook jersey that you're going to get signed. Former Georgia great Jimbo Cook. If you want to talk about that. We're going to get into Win Total Spectacular. I did just want to make sure that the schedule will be released Thursday evening, and you'll see a lot of reactions on your timeline. We're recording this Thursday afternoon, but the thing about the schedule is we already know all of the opponents. We will talk about them. The order is what gets the most publicity. Like we're finding out the Thanksgiving games, which, dear Lord, what is slate on Thanksgiving?
Absolute banger. I mean,
Christmas, same thing.
And dude, we get Thanksgiving Eve this year. And then we get 3 on Thanksgiving, and then we get Black Friday. And these are all awesome games. So I have to ignore my family for the night before, all day, and the next day. And then on Christmas, sorry, kids, the Eagles are playing Christmas Eve. So, am I going to hang out with my family or watch the Eagles against the Texans? And then we get a Christmas triple header again. So thank you, NFL. Thank you, Roger Goodell, for making my wife hate me even more on these holidays because the NFL rules the frickin' world. But man, those games are going to be so fun. And that Thanksgiving slate every year is so good. The Christmas slate for DFS again going to be so good. So should be so much fun, man. Can't wait.
It's funny. We both work from home, and then we're about to hit this point where the kids are home from school for the summer. And I always tell people, I don't know if I parented well, and I don't know if I did my job well when that happens. I feel like that's what's going to happen on Thanksgiving. Did I do a good job with my family? Probably not. Did I do a good job with DFS? Maybe not, because I feel like I can't do either one fully well.
You know what? You got to pick. Do you want to hang out with your family on the holidays, Kyle, or win DFS? And I think we all know the easy answer there.
Do you think I should send this schedule? So say, hey, just put this on your calendar, Bears-Lions, 1:00 game, okay? I'm just letting you know, if you want me to take down a tournament, I just need to shut down for a few days and just lock into that slate, especially your Eagles and Cowboys. That's going to be awesome. Chiefs, Bills, that Sunday night game that Thanksgiving night game. I need to lock in now.
I would just, for your significant others, your spouses, your kids, if you let them know now, and then we get to this time in November, they can't be like, well, we didn't talk about this. I told you in May. I gave my 2 weeks notice in May that I wasn't going to be available for these days. So yeah, Kyle, what's more important to you? Come on.
Maybe I'll like come up with an invitation, send it in the mail, and then just kind of show my family like, hey, I'm giving you, a little notice months in advance and see what happens. But we're going to talk through all of the AFC teams. Let's go for it.
We're gonna win. We're gonna win!
Every single year, the NFL schedule or the strength of schedule changes, and the way that we look at the schedule has multiple layers to it. We do not take, here's what happened last year, and here are the records of the teams last year, and just impute that and say this is their strength of schedule. We've leaned heavily over the years on some of the work that Warren Sharp has done at Sharp Football Analysis. He's been on this podcast. In the past, we've gotten to talk about win totals. So that will be something that we reference when we talk about strength of schedule, because Warren's done a lot of research out there, and it just matters so much. Like, some people don't love that Betz and I emphasize year over year about what place schedule you have. But when you think of the 3 games that are determined of where you finished in the division, it does change an outcome for a team when you're looking at 1 or 2 wins, right? Like when we're talking about a win total for a team, let's say it's at 9.5. A win matters a ton. Like it's really hard to get to double-digit wins in the NFL. And so we're going to talk about strength of schedule. We'll talk a little bit about net rest advantage, which next week I think we'll have a full detail on the NFC and how that works. But kind of just give people an overview. When we talk in win totals, it's not an exact science, and yet there are things that we can spot inefficiencies in the market with.
Yeah, it's definitely not an exact science. And obviously the tricky part with all of this is that you are trying to forecast out. I mean, if we're doing this at May, right? Like we're literally including the chaos that could ensue in training camp from an injury perspective. There's chaos that ensues in season with injuries, obviously, coaching changes, play caller changes, all that stuff. So whatever you think about the NFL in May, it's not going to be the same as what you think about the NFL in November. And so just like our prop market, we generally try to lean towards unders because, like you said, when you can kind of pick off some of the higher lines, it's just hard to win 11, 12 games in the NFL, right? Like there's a reason there's only a handful of teams that do that every year. It's just not easy to do. And in order to accomplish that, you need things to go right, both from a health perspective and from a, last minute field goal to win perspective, like 1-score games, stuff like that. There's way more variance in this than I think people realize. And so it's super easy to just go down the list of the schedule and be like, oh, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. But it's like, well, what if there's an injury to the 2 offensive linemen, both tackles are out? What is that going to do, right? So things just shift so massively. And so the way that we look at this is looking at some of the metrics from the season before. How repeatable is that? Looking at coaching changes, play caller changes, stability in the roster in terms of like how many starters is this team returning, things like that. What do they do in free agency, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into it. But if you're trying to bet all of these, like it's hard to have a profitable season. So we look at maybe 2 to 3 on each side, AFC and NFC, kind of find our favorites that Kyle has come with for his schedule adjusted stuff, and then provide context around that. Like, do we think that is right? What's the price on that? Do we think that's a fair number? And all those sort of things. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I do think if you have a good process, you can be profitable in these markets, year over year.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned it, like you can walk through a team schedule, which I get this text every year in one of my friend group texts. Okay, it's a lot of Falcons fans in it. It's one of my home leagues, and every single year, like clockwork, one of them will say, "Oh, Falcons schedule." I feel like our floor is probably 8 or 9 wins, and I feel like we can get up to 11 this year. And it's the same thing because when you walk through a schedule, you assume there are games that you will win or not win. The game I went to, one of the games I went to last year, Monday night, Falcons and Bills. I mean, what a game that was. Bijan went ham. There were so many Bills fans in attendance that even before the game I was like, we're not winning this game. We're the Falcons. This is Michael Penix. If I was walking through the Bills schedule, I'd be like, oh, we're totally going to beat the Falcons. And there are other games that the Falcons totally farted away that you would have just walked through the schedule and said, oh, they're going to win that. That's a win. That's a W. We talk about historical win percentages, And when you look at lines for games, you'll notice like the money line, it's like minus 200, whatever. Those are implied odds or probabilities, and everybody has a certain amount of odds to win a game. You might look at the Dolphins and say, dude, that team's not going to win any games. And potentially they could not be favored in maybe any game this year. I need to walk through that once we get the lines. But they have a percentage chance to win divisional games. And we just need to bake that in when we're looking at teams. So don't just look at a team and say, oh, that's a win. There's a percentage chance they should probably win at home. Like the Bills at home against the Dolphins. I don't know, 75% chance or something to me. But it's like things could change.
Weird things happen, man. Turnovers, a missed field goal. Josh Allen turns his ankle in the wrong time and all of a sudden he's out. And they're just chaos, right? Chaos ensues in the NFL every year. And it's so hard to think about what might look like in May. But then in hindsight after the season, you're like, oh yeah, that team had a bunch of injuries. Oh yeah, that team was really unfortunate in third downs or whatever it is. Like at the time, it sounds crazy, but of course that happens every single year and you have to remind yourself of what happened the year prior and the conversations you had leading into the season. I keep bringing up the Raiders because it's laughable in hindsight, but like at the time we were like, okay, more experienced coaching staff, they invested a lot here and we went down the list and everything. And then you're like, oh, Pete Carroll was just done and Geno was done and they had offensive line injuries, right? And it just like piled up and snowballed. So the floor can drop out on teams quicker than you realize sometimes. And so that, again, that's why we try to lean towards the unders more often than not.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Commanders last year. Their win total is at 9.5. And the Jaden Daniels injury really mattered. I think no one's going to argue with that. But going 5-12 and looking at their expected win, like it was around 6, it's like the defense regressed mightily, one of the worst in the league. We did talk about that. Like, okay, here's what was on the table. None of us projected Jaden Daniels, but like, okay, what is the case of this team not repeating their success? If they did struggle with injuries, if they have some of their older players, right? Like we talked about their core of like Eckler and Debo and Ertz. It's like, okay, this group, and Terry was hurt at the beginning of the year. It's like there's paths for that team to fail. And that's like what we're going to try to bring up. Like that one's sad because we really didn't know what they fully were, but at least we knew the defense was going to be trash.
They were not very good.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break and we'll start with the AFC East.
Comcast is delivering extraordinary experiences in live sports through the incredible broadcast and storytelling from NBC, innovative and personalized viewing features on Xfinity and Peacock, and the country's most reliable Wi-Fi. Viewers can enjoy every game-changing play faster and more seamlessly than ever, all on a network built to deliver unforgettable moments as close to live as possible. The ultimate experience for the American sports fan. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/sports.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
All right, starting in the AFC East, we will talk about these 4 teams. The Patriots, who were first place last year, have a 9.5 win total. The Bills are at 10.5. Miami at 4.5, and the Jets at 5.5. The Patriots are interesting because we knew how easy their schedule was last year. Now it's middle of the pack. It's 12th in Warren Sharp's ranks. Right now, I'm looking at my schedule adjusted projections. They're at 9.85 wins, and you can see this kind of reflected. It's at minus 125 for the over. I feel like the line's just really good and right for the Patriots.
Yeah, I don't have a strong take here. I mean, last year it was at 7.5, heavily juiced the over, then got to 8.5, and even then people were like, "Are you sure? Is this right?" And obviously they had an amazing season, went to the Super Bowl. And now we're getting, okay, you have the bump for Drake May, another year in the system. You have the staff that's in place right now, another year in the system. You have continuity. They invest in the offensive line more, and likely you're adding A.J. Brown. It's like, obviously you could see this team winning 10 or 11 games again. That wouldn't be shocking. But last year, the reason we bought into them was because the schedule was insanely easy. Second easiest in the league. It's not difficult this year, but number 2, which is like an outlier compared to 12, is a huge, huge conversation. It's way different. So for me, like you said, I think the price on this is mostly right. I'm not taking under, certainly, but I would be surprised if the bottom fell out for a team like this because of how good they were last year and how good Drake May is, in my opinion. So I think the line is right. They'll be highly competitive this year, but I don't necessarily want to invest in this market with them.
I think it's easy for me to spot some numbers with May that could regress. Completion percentage at 72%.
Yeah.
Number 1 in yards per attempt. Like a lot of those things.
It's just hard to be the number 1 EPA offense in the league, like back-to-back seasons, right? Like, and it just doesn't happen.
And it's also really hard when you don't have anybody else that was in the All-Pro, even Pro Bowl category, as silly as the Pro Bowl is, other than May.
Yeah.
Like you look at the team, you're like, okay, Henderson had his moments. Diggs got 1,000 yards, but it really wasn't that valuable. And Booty had like those deep touchdowns, but it was a weird offense that sustained something all the way. So I would just say right now they're mostly a stay away team because they're not even favored to win the division.
Yeah, I don't have a market here that I'm looking to bet on with the Patriots. It'll just be more through best ball for me.
I will wait to see if this total comes up after the AJ Brown news.
Would you come back in on the under if it moved to 10.5?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We'll bookmark this for June 2nd.
Okay. The Bills are at 10.5. The over is minus 145.
Gross.
And I want to ask the question, is there value on taking an under here?
It's always scary to take an under on a very, very good team that has Josh Allen playing quarterback. So I personally will not be playing this on the under, but I can see where you're coming from because, again, we just mentioned at the top of the show, it's hard to win 11 and 12 games in the NFL on a routine basis. Obviously, we think the Bills can do that. The problem for me when I look at this team is like, you think about the Sean McDermott years, and historically we'd always talk about like, they've got Josh Allen and they've got his defense. And the defense for those seasons previous to this past year were really, really good. You saw the defense, honestly, not be very good at all last year. Terrible against the run for years. Like they kind of got older, like a bunch of their pieces kind of moved on. And they kind of are not the dominant defense that they were maybe even like 3 years ago. So I think that's an area that certainly could give them problems. The other thing is we have a first-time head coach here, right? We don't really know what Joe Brady is as a head coach. We know his scheme, we know what he is as an OC, but we don't know how much value there was with this team with McDermott versus a new head coach. So there's variables that I think point you to maybe having value on the under. Like I said, for me, I don't want to bet against Josh Allen, so I will not be playing it, but I totally see where you're coming from.
I think one of the underrated parts of the team that will be changing is the offensive line because they've been so good recently, and their longtime O-line coach, Aaron Kromer, retired this offseason, which is a really big deal. I don't think people realize, like, it's definitely been a big deal in Philly with Jeff Stoutland as the offensive line coach. Like, it changes the way that you function as an offense. And so they lost their starting left guard. They lost their coach. That will change. And I agree with you about the defense. Like, they were 27th in pass rush win rate. They were 31st in EPA per rush. Like, there's already some warning signs. And the way that they've kind of addressed it is like, let's have this rotation at edge and defensive tackle, and that can work in the NFL. But I feel like they've just regressed in an interesting spot. They also led the NFL with 109 rush attempts inside the red zone. Like, they were just constantly in the red zone. And I think the DJ Moore signing or acquisition is good, but I don't think it moves the needle the way that people think with this team. I think at the end of the day, Brandon Beane, their GM, sniffs his own farts. That's my analysis.
That's the take here. Yeah, and the thing about their draft, which I think they got good value, Kyle. They got good value in their trades by moving back into the same tier. We talked about that on our recap show. But it's like, at the same time, when you're thinking about this from a win totals perspective, they didn't really add like blue chip talent at all in the NFL draft, right?
In a terrible draft pool.
Exactly. So they added like, a bunch of nickels. It doesn't make $1, right? It's like, okay, maybe they have some more depth this year than they had previously, but the bottom line is like this team is always going to be relying on Josh Allen. If for some reason he gets injured, like it's over, basically, is how I would put it. I don't bet against Josh Allen because he is that good. He is an MVP candidate every year. So again, for me, like I'm personally not playing it, but I mean, it's at minus 145. If this happens to move throughout the summer to 11.5, I will certainly be coming back on the under there. But yeah, at this price, I'm not touching it. But at 11.5, if it does get there, then we maybe come back in on the under.
Yes, I agree with you. This season, this division plays the AFC West. So you're going to have KC. You're going to have the Chargers playing at Denver. They play the NFC North. Really tough division. And then Buffalo, we talk about the placement games. Like there's second place games for finishing second place in the division. Baltimore, at Houston, and at the Rams.
Maybe you could talk me into an under.
I think the better play is to wait if it gets pushed out.
Yes, I agree.
I agree with you. But I also think that the Patriots news with A.J. Brown, when that happens, will also push them up a little bit.
All right, we'll bookmark the Patriots and bookmark the Bills.
Okay, so we're through two teams, and you have two bookmarks.
Yeah, hey, man, I'm ready to make some bets.
All right, the Dolphins are up next. They finished third place in the division. Their win total's at 4.5. The under's at minus 120. And it's wild to say, but I think the best lines I'm seeing in our projections is to still take an under.
This is my first official. I'm going to be playing this under 4.5 for the Dolphins. I found it minus 105 on DK, so even better. There are some 110s out there. I saw minus 120, so at minus 105, where it's basically a coin flip, I would take that. The biggest reason for that, among many, is the schedule, right? You think about this team last year, they had the fifth easiest in the league last season. This year, they have the second most difficult. It's the number one delta from easiest to most difficult year over year in the NFL. It is the Dolphins. Only the Cardinals have a harder schedule this year when you're looking at some of those forecasting schedule metrics. So the schedule is very tough. We have a brand new coaching staff, a brand new first-time head coach in Jeff Hafley, and an OC in Bobby Slowick that the last time we saw him as an offensive coordinator, there was a lot of conversation about, like, is Stroud regressing because of Slowick, or, you know, what is the problem here? And there was a lot of issues with the offense, but you have that whole thing, and like the way that they're talking about this offense and the way that he has come out, he said, he's like, I would like to be 50-50, first down, pass, and rush.
Bobby.
Second down, 50-50, perfect split, pass and rush. And it's like,
he just never makes up his mind.
No, it's just, we'll flip a coin here and we'll figure it out. But it's like, you have a team that like wants to play ball control and run the football and all those things. And it's like, okay, your defense is not good enough to do that. You have a running back who we love, Devon Achane in fantasy, obviously, and he's very talented, but like, are you going to run him up the middle 22 times a game and hope that this game stays close and win 13-10? Like, that is not going to happen this year. It's not a recipe for success. So I have issues about the scheme, and you look at the pass catcher group, dude, it's like, this is the most laughable wide receiver depth chart in the NFL. They have no talent. And then you come back to who is throwing them the football. I talked all offseason, like on our Dynasty show and everything, I was like, I'm kind of interested in Malik Willis because he's cheap and people aren't really realizing he's going to be a starter this year. But now, as the dust has settled and the situation has come very clear, I would not be surprised if Malik Willis fails miserably this season. It'll be very fun for fantasy if he succeeded, but you look at, again, who he's throwing the football to and the system that he's in, they're going to use him as a runner, but as a passer, I don't even know how good he is, and I don't think anybody does. And so when you look at a player that's attempted 89 total passes over the last 2 seasons, a lot has to go right for this team to push 5, 6, 7 wins. Like, I don't see it with the schedule and the way this team is set up. So the talent issues are there. The offensive line is average at best, and you have a quarterback who's completely unproven. So for me, I'll be taking this under, and I actually feel really good about it, especially considering the state of the team. Like, if they get late in the season, let's say it's November, December, and they have 1 win or 2 wins, they kind of know the direction of the team, right? They're not trying to win the Super Bowl this year. So will they be motivated in those late months to say, hey, we're going to give this coaching staff a second season. We have young guys on this roster. Let's get a look. Let's get a look at Chris Bell off an ACL tear. Let's get a look at Caleb Douglas, who we overdrafted. Like, let's get a look at these guys. So their motivation level this year to go out and perform and win games, yeah, in May, it sounds great. Like, we're going to be competitive. We're going to win. At the bottom line, it's like, if we can get the first pick in the draft and we know that, they'll be motivated to do so. So I like under 4.5 here. It's a low total. Obviously, weird stuff can happen in the NFL. They steal a game here or there. But for me, all signs point to an under, especially considering the price at minus 105.
I did not mind what they did in the draft. They took Caden Proctor, the tackle at 12th overall. They took our boy, Chris Johnson, cornerback extraordinaire, going to be
elite.
Fit him for the jacket now. And Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker in second round. Like, that's how you build a team. It is not how you win in 2026 Like, they just don't have the playmakers outside of, Achane. But yeah, their third place schedule, Cincinnati, at Indianapolis, at San Francisco. They're not easy games they're gifted with, and we already talked about the other matchups. So hopefully Bobby Slowick is employed somewhere next year. I can't guarantee it's Miami, buddy.
Let's just real quick review their schedule again, okay? Because obviously in the AFC East, they're playing the Patriots twice and the Bills twice. Brutally difficult. In the AFC West, goodness gracious, they get the Chiefs, the Chargers, obviously the Broncos, and yeah, maybe they beat the Raiders. You get the NFC North, Chicago, Detroit. They go on the road to Green Bay, on the road to Minnesota, and then you mentioned their third place schedule. The schedule is just brutal for a team that is not built to win football games right now.
Yep. Let's finish with the Jets. They're at 5.5. This is one of those teams that in the draft, they addressed a lot of different issues, especially in the first round. They were tied or trailing on 93% of their offensive snaps last year. It was terrible. They had 73 plays all season they were leading. And then they said, you know what, let's bring in Frank Wright to make him the oldest OC in the NFL at 64 years old. Love you, Frank. But this is not, to quote my friend Betz, this is not a serious organization if you're doing this type of stuff. But their line, I think, is actually a good line. I'm actually probably just staying away from this team.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely get an easier schedule this year. I like what they're doing, honestly. Like, I kind of like the way that they're building. Yeah, Gino's probably not going to succeed this year, and that's fine for the direction of the team. But like, they kind of know we're putting the foundation in place to drop a quarterback in here probably next season, right? With one of those first picks. So I like the way that they built. I don't love the picks of like Sadiq and Omar Cooper necessarily, but just they have an offensive line. They're at least putting weapons around a young quarterback. They've got Breece Hall. They've kind of got all that in place. They've got to get the defense figured out. They traded away basically all their pieces in the last year or two. So that remains a giant question mark, but I think 5.5 is probably right. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win 6 games, but obviously nobody should be surprised if they win 2 or 3 because of the Jets' aura, I'll say. But for me, this is a stay away.
My hope for this team is that Cade Klubnik is good.
He will be starting a couple games, I think, down the stretch.
Yeah,
and we're going to find out.
That's the part that I don't understand. Like, you can walk through their schedule and get to 4-ish wins, and then you go like, okay, how does that shift at the end of the season, how competitive they are? But I actually kind of sneakily think like he could be okay in the NFL.
Well, they're always better in the pros than they are in college.
Whoa, dude. He was great his first 3 years.
Dude, Clemson was... You know what's really funny? Going back, and if you look at the preseason and week 1 of college football, top 25.
Are the rankings?
It is hilarious in hindsight because it was like Penn State was up there. Clemson was up there. Just, goodness gracious, man. Those teams were horrible last year in college football. But yeah, look, Clemson had talent, right? Like, a bunch of their dudes got drafted. Like, they had NFL players, but they just never actually helped them progress in college. So I don't know what Dabo's doing down there, but something's not right.
AFC North is next. The Steelers are projected for 8.5 wins. The Ravens at 11.5. Spoiler, that is a very high total. The Bengals at 9.5 and the Browns at 6.5. Always an interesting division. I remember when we did this preview a couple years ago, there was a season where all of these teams went 3-3 in the division. They just like beat each other up. And as much as we can make fun of the Browns and their historic, like, okay, this has never been a good organization, defensively, they were in a ton of games last year, and you do have to give them a little bit more credit, when you're allowing the 4th fewest yards per game and you have all those sacks. So don't just discredit the Browns despite not having a quarterback. But we got to start with the Steelers. They have a first place schedule, which gives them games against Denver, at New England, and at Philadelphia under a new regime with Mike McCarthy. And as of this recording, we don't know who their quarterback is. Wink, wink, maybe Aaron Rodgers. Historically, the Steelers are just the worst in this market because whatever you think they're going to do, they're going to exceed it. The under is at -140. My projections also lean towards the under. Are you willing to pay that price?
I don't think at -140 I would. I think there's some interesting alts here if you really think like, is there a world that exists where Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back and it is Will Howard and Drew Aller? And then it's like, goodness gracious, dude. But the problem is like the defense, I think, is good enough to steal a couple games. And obviously McCarthy, even though like his clock management stuff has always been a problem in Dallas the last handful of years when he was there, he does get pretty good play out of his offenses. So we'll see what's going on at quarterback. If you think the bottom could fall out, like if it isn't Rodgers or whatever, like I don't know what the exact markets are on some of this stuff, but like taking them to not even to finish fourth in the division, like something kind of outlier like that, I would probably look at that other than just taking their under 8.5 where it's minus 140. But for me, I'm not necessarily interested in betting this right now, kind of given the state of the team and kind of given what's going on after Mike Tomlin, who I'll never forget that one year, man. They were just, everything lined up for the under, and they went by one win over their total because of Tomlin. That's what they do. But yeah, no, this is for me is a stay away.
Okay. Yeah, there's some markets if you really want to play around. Like I'm looking at DraftKings Sportsbook right now where you can, I don't love doing the order 1, 2, 3, 4.
I never bet those.
I did that one year. I didn't bet it, but I was like, let me try to do this before the season, just like as an exercise. And then I put in a reminder and it was like, okay, I got like half the division right, or you got 3 of 4, and it's like, man, those are just so hard to hit. But yeah, you can find division standings, and you can find like, here's the order, for the Steelers, if you think that they would finish fourth, dude, it's only plus 270.
Yeah, there's not really much value here.
Yep. All right, let's move on. They do have a crazy run in the middle of the season where they play Sunday Night Football, they play a Black Friday game. We talked about another Sunday Night Football game against Houston, and then a Monday night game in Jacksonville. That's like over like a 5-week span.
Yikes.
So we'll see about that. The Ravens, this is the team that in my projections stood out to you the most because their win total's at 11.5, and in my schedule adjusted projections, I have them at 10.4. And just to give you context, like the way that I project is using historical numbers within division as well. And then I use some of Warren Sharp's schedule stuff on the back end to make sure, like, am I seeing this correctly for this year? But that's a pretty big discrepancy to take the under. But the line right now is the under's at minus 140. But 11.5 is such a massive total for a team that's turning over their entire coaching staff and everything we've ever known for the Ravens.
Would you be interested in a minus 130?
You could talk me into that.
You prefer that to minus 140?
I do actually.
Because that is available on FanDuel right now, which I do think is one of our second, I guess, official plays here. Look, betting against the Ravens, it's not fun. Betting against Lamar, it's not fun.
We love the Ravens.
We do. And I actually am very interested in them for their right tail outcomes this year, where it's like if things kind of break right, their schedule is definitely manageable. You could see for the game we play in fantasy and best ball, targets being ultra condensed to Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, and we'll see on the rookies and Rashad Bateman. But it's like for the games we play in best ball and DFS, like where the ball is going, and when Lamar hits, it's awesome. But if you take a step back and look at this team overall, again, first-time head coach, we don't really know what that's going to look like. First-time play caller, we don't know what that's going to look like. And you look at the offensive line, they lose Tyler Linderbaum. It's just going to be so different, I think, this year than what we've been used to with Harbaugh. And I'm not sure that they have the talent at pass catcher to kind of compensate for the change that we're going to see with Derrick Henry yet another year older. I know we keep saying like he won't fall off. He never does. It's like eventually some guys do, right? And he's another year older. So you're looking at, they have like day 2 and day 3 wide receivers behind Rashad Bateman. Like if Flowers gets injured, like they don't have talent at wide receiver. Like they
feel fragile,
super fragile. I agree with that. So look at the offensive line fragility, the pass catcher fragility here. Lamar can go Superman and win a couple games, certainly, and they've got some studs on defense. But I just think looking at the number, again, it's hard to win 12 games in the NFL. You need so much to go right. And I think that you can definitely talk yourself into ways it goes south here. For the Ravens, they don't even have to be bad, right? This is a 10-win team, a 9-win team. They sneak into the playoffs. Like they could still have a good postseason run, but you still cash the under here. So again, it's just the number. It's 11.5 minus 130. It's hard to win 12 games in the NFL.
They could win the division with 11 and you're still like, oh, that line was just way too high.
That's what happened with the Eagles last year, right? We took 11.5 was the under, and they still made the playoffs. Obviously, they had no chance, but yeah, that's again a play on the number. 11.5 is a huge line.
Second place games against the Chargers, at Buffalo, at Dallas. Those are not easy ones. When we go to the next team, the Bengals, where I look at their placement games, like one of theirs, instead of getting at Buffalo, they face at Miami because they finished third place. So that's the kind of stuff that matters. Like it that game in itself, like, okay, am I playing at Buffalo or I'm playing at Miami? It changes things. The Bengals are at 9.5. Their over's at -140. And Warren Sharp had a good tweet that I want to bring up here. We don't know the order of the schedule yet. There are some things that have been leaked and they're very clear, but the Bengals' first 7 games are all at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and Burrow has played much better when he's had a consistent time. Since 2022, he's 8-3 on Sunday at 1 p.m., and primetime games have not gone as well. I think this is a team that is going in the right direction of like how they've addressed the defense. They've added some free agents. They've been drafting that way. And I think there's some value in them winning the division.
I don't mind that call, especially if we are thinking under on the Ravens. That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, that would be a correlated bet. So I think there's definitely right to outcomes to chase here with this team. The issue for me is always like Burrow's got a pretty significant injury history. And like the vibes were so weird the last year and a half or so, right? Where he seems fed up and it's like now or never for this team is kind of how I would put it. Like it feels like this version of the Bengals could be gone before we know it. And I know the Dexter Lawrence trade kind of moves the needle this year, but it's like, man, he dealt with a bunch of injuries this last year. He's another season older. Like I think the Giants did very well in that trade to kind of capitalize on the market.
Yes.
Not saying he won't help the Bengals win games, but just for the timing of the trade, it makes a lot of sense. So all in all, I could see this going very well for the Bengals, excuse me, but on their win total, I don't have a play. I'm with you. I think taking them to win the division just makes a lot more sense. If you think the Ravens might come in under 11.5 and the Bengals might go over 9.5, you might as well just take those plus odds and shoot for the right tail outcome.
I feel like it's one of those years for Zach Taylor, like a make or break year, because I don't think he is one of the better like offensive coaches in the NFL. Like I think he's like meh to like lower tier, and he's kind of stuck around for a while because they built around the offense, right? Like they've built their team that way, and they've kind of gotten stuck, and now they're trying to like come back with this other approach of like, okay, let's go after free agents. Let's take a couple shots on like high upside defensive ends from Texas A&M back-to-back years. Like that's what they're trying to do. We'll see how it goes. The Browns are the last team in this division. They're at 6.5. And all I wrote down is like, I'm kind of rooting for the Browns and Todd Monken. Like I feel like this could be a fun team that we use in DFS because I think some of the players might be cheap at like beginning of the year. Like there's just like the target shares condensed from like Fannin and maybe Concepcion. But they were just, the offense was so bad last year that like I just need them to be like 23rd in the league as opposed to like 31st.
Just pick up a first down. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking.
Just bring in Todd and see what happens. And then I realized the regime that was there is now the Falcons regime. I just realized.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Todd Monken. I do think he'll get better offensive play than maybe what the market expects. The problem is that is absolutely capped because of the quarterback. Whatever one it is or however many it is, however many games these guys play, like obviously the ceiling is capped. But like I would not be surprised if they win 6 or 7 games this year and are competitive. I think they're building their team the right way. Like Andrew Berry obviously completely missed on the Deshaun Watson contract and that whole saga, like worst contract maybe in sports history. But since then, like the last couple of years, like he's kind of cooked. Like last year they did very well in the Travis Hunter trade. This year I was a huge fan of what they did from a team building perspective. They're putting pieces around, again, kind of like the Jets. Like maybe it goes south, but like they're putting the pieces around maybe a rookie quarterback next year to come in and stabilize this thing and hopefully hit the ground running. I do hope Todd is still coaching. Todd Monken is still coaching when that time does come in the next couple seasons. We'll see. He's already an older coach, but yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of him, and I think this team is headed in the right direction. I just don't know if it's going to be this year, mostly because of quarterback play.
Love what they did in the draft, and I think a big part of this year will be the offensive line. It was one of the worst in the league. It was worst in pressure rate. You also are going to end up that way when Shedeur Sanders just runs backwards.
Right.
So that's part of it. But the entire offensive line is changing over. They took Spencer Fano 9th overall. I like that. So they're headed in the right. Like I'm proud of them, but it's kind of like proud of like your kids did something at pre-K, and you're like, okay, you're doing it. But like once you get to school, like big boy school, it's going to change.
Like this is more like instead of getting like an award or like something actually meaningful, it's like a participation trophy.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, do the girls bring home anything from pre-K and you're like, oh, that's so cute. But like in the back of your mind, you're like, not impressed.
Did you even try? Oh, that looks great. Did you even try? Come on, we don't care about second place in this house, Kyle. Love you, girls.
Dude, sometimes I think I've told this story before, but Truman, my youngest, is like an incredible reader. Like just like
nerd.
I know. He just like started reading at like age 3.5, 4, like just like to the point of like he's reading better than his brother. His first test that he took in kindergarten, he bombed it. I mean, it was the worst test score the teacher said she's ever seen. And she's like, why did this happen? And then we talked to Truman. He goes, oh, I didn't care about that. I just like clicked stuff and he just purposely bombed it.
Dude, what a legend, man. That's hilarious.
Dude. Oh man. Emma and I, me as a former teacher, my wife as a teacher, were like, we're dying. We're literally dying inside. Let's take a quick break and we'll move to AFC South.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There's never been a better time to get outside and experience the benefits of nature. Discover nearby trails and explore the outdoors with All Trails. Download the free app today and find your outside.
Back talking about the AFC South, and I'm looking at my projections. I feel like I haven't been too kind to a division that's definitely had a resurgence. Remember years ago, we were like, oh, that's a joke division, AFC South. It's like Jacksonville had a great year. We know the Texans have a good defense. Indianapolis was really good till Daniel Jones got hurt. And then the Titans, I would say, are moving in a general right direction. The Jaguars are at 9.5. The Texans are at 9.5. The Colts at 8.5. And the Titans at 6.5. But I don't love any of the lines here. I'm worried about these teams. So where do you want to start?
I mean, let's just talk about the two at the top. I don't have much analysis to say about the Colts or the Titans. We talked about the Titans in best ball. That's a different conversation where the price is like, hey, these guys are cheap, and if it hits, it will all pay off. I think 6.5 is pretty right on them. I think the Colts could go either way. Like, Daniel Jones' health is a question mark. They obviously overperformed expectation last year, and then you look at like... Obviously, Kyle. But it's like, hey, this team now has Sauce Gardner on defense. They could be better there. We'll see what the offense looks like. They're counting a lot on Alec Pierce. They paid him huge money. He's coming off of an ankle procedure this offseason. It's like there's ways that go south. At the same time, we still are huge fans of Steichen. Like, I think the pieces are there that this team could still win 9 games. So, like, I don't really have a take on either of those two teams. At the top is where it's interesting because we've done this with the Texans, I feel like, for a couple of years where it's like, this team is good, but like they're not elite because their offense has been held back, and it's like the defense is amazing, right? This defense alone can win them 5 or 6 games, but it's like, can CJ Stroud take this offense over the hump? Like, we've been asking for that rookie year Stroud to come back, and the truth is, like, I don't know that we're ever getting that. It's been so long, and so
sad.
It is sad, but it's like behind Nico, man, like, what do they have? Like, Jaden Higgins was like a fine role player. You don't know what he is. Tank Dell, we haven't seen him in a couple of years because of his devastating injury. Like, they don't really have a secondary option that you can confidently count on week in and week out. So it's like, there's ways that go south on offense there. The offensive line is still a concern. David Montgomery, who Dan Campbell loves like his own son, was benched last season, basically, like barely played him. So it's like, man, and now he's another year older. It's like, I could totally see the offense being the one that doesn't hold up the end of the bargain again this year, and the defense is good enough to drag them to 9 wins, but like they don't really have a chance at the Super Bowl. So I'm kind of down on them, and the schedule is brutal. 26 in the NFL. It's really, really difficult schedule. And then the Jaguars, how much of this is real, man? I don't really know. Like, we spent so many seasons talking about, is Trevor Lawrence the guy? Like, is he actually one of the guys? How good is Liam Cohen? How good is this system? Where does Travis Hunter play? Like, they didn't really, they added Chris Rodriguez in free agency. That was their big signing. And then they go out in the draft. And yeah, they have their own process and that's cool, but it's like, you look at the consensus board conversation and like the Jags by every NFL evaluator got like an F in the draft. And what do we know? Like, we don't know these guys and their process, but it's like from the outside looking in, it seems like something is missing with this Jaguars team. And they're basically just saying, hey, let's do what we did last year and it's definitely going to work. I'm not sure because now you're paying the tax on the schedule of what you did last year where you had to, win a bunch of games down the stretch to be what they were. So that's all my kind of like vomit takes. I'm just getting it all out there on this division.
Yep.
I want you to come in and tell me what you think because you show a pretty good under edge on the two teams at the top.
Yeah, 9.5 for both teams is a solid line. Like, so just in terms of win totals and how we look at this, I look at this for my projections and go, I think initially I liked the under. The Jaguars have a really tough road slate. If we're not even talking about their division, they play at Baltimore, at Cincinnati, at Dallas, at Denver, and at Chicago. So, like, I don't love that combination of a first-place schedule with some of these really hard road games. And then I just look at how both of these defense, like the Texans, you look at their defense and you go, I get why they're successful. The Jaguars and how, like, they were really fortunate with takeaways, that's a red flag. It's what we're going to say about the Bears, right? When we get to the Bears, we're going to go, this defense gave up a ton of yards, and when they needed it, they had the turnovers. It's kind of like years ago, we said the same thing about Dallas when they had all those turnovers. We're like, this is not going to hold.
Deron Bland
overtime.
pick 6 season.
That was a fun season.
It was great. Not repeatable.
So, I think that Jacksonville overperformed against an easier schedule down the stretch, right? Like after the bye, they were incredible. They went on the run. And during that time, they beat the Chargers.
The Raiders by 1.
Right. The games were not, it was just the Chargers and Denver were the only playoff teams they beat during that
I have
run.
the full list. They beat the Raiders by 1, I believe, in overtime. The Chargers, the Cardinals, the Titans twice, the Colts twice, one of which was the Daniel Jones injury game. The other one, of course, was P. River starting.
Amen.
The Jets, and then the Broncos, which, yeah, that's a legit win. But it's like they beat up on some really bad teams down the stretch. And now I think the market is like, oh, this is one of the best teams in the division. It's like, I don't truthfully know. And I think just because your schedule adjusted metrics show under, and like I could see a path where the repeatability of what they did last year is not sustainable, I think I could talk myself into an official play here.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that direction with the Jaguars. I'm not like totally sold, but and this division's tough. Like I was looking at the Colts. I know we're gonna probably bypass them, but like I was like, what's the route for this team? Because their projections are matching their win total 8.5. I was like, okay, but the over's at plus 120. How could they do this? And I'm like, I feel like they haven't fixed their defense. I feel like they're counting on Alec Pierce, and we're counting on Daniel Jones coming back, and he's not going to be running as much. Jonathan Taylor's a little bit older. I feel like the writing's on the wall of like, this is about an 8-win team, and it's really hard for me to be bullish on them.
Yeah, we'll just note 2 more things, 2 data points on the Texans and Jaguars. Somebody released the official miles traveled throughout the season on certain teams, and you might say to yourself, like, oh, that doesn't really matter, but like changing time zones so many times and all that sort of stuff, teams going over to Europe and wherever else we're playing these days. The Texans have the 3rd most miles traveled this year. The Jaguars are 8th. So that data point, however much weight you put on that, is working against both these teams as well.
I like this division. Like I will turn on the TV and say, if it's a Titans-Colts game or if it's Colts and Texans, like I'm excited to watch this division, but I think I'm mostly going to stay away, and then we'll talk about the Jaguars under if we want to later. Let's move to the final division, the AFC West, and I feel like this is my favorite conversation to have so far, other than the Ravens one. I feel like the Ravens have felt pretty strong about that. The Broncos, who had 14 wins last year, are sitting at 9.5. The Chargers at 10.5. Our Chargers. Love our Chargers.
Bolts up, baby.
Gosh, I love them so much. I was mowing the lawn yesterday just thinking about the Chargers.
Somebody out there who's really good with graphics and AI and whatever else that the youths are doing these days. Can we please get the Chargers, the woman fan from that Monday night game years ago, and please Photoshop Kyle's face on her? Somebody tag me on social media with that.
I had the thought, and maybe you guys all have this when you're doing yard work, where you just say to yourself, maybe I love this team more than the Falcons.
if the Eagles can't be good for a stretch of time, whenever that might happen, I'm going to just, I'll ride the wave. I'm never not going to be a fan, of course. But like, if the Chargers can be good at the same time,
oh man,
I can sleep at night, you know?
And you know what? I even said this to you. I said, I don't even think they need Keenan.
Are you feeling all right?
I mean, they need him in terms of vibes. But like as a team, I think that they're already like set, but he'll sign a contract in like August or whatever.
Probably.
All right, so Chargers at 10.5, the Chiefs at 10.5. They have a third place schedule, and then Raiders at 5.5. What a team. That's moving in the right direction.
They are.
All right. Do you feel like it's a slap in the face to the Broncos? And I know some Broncos fans out there, that this team who won 14 games last year is returning their entire offensive line. They're returning their defense, which is one of the best, like pretty much everybody's back. And they're at 9.5. And then if you look at divisional odds, they're third in divisional odds at plus 225.
It does.
Slap in the face.
It kind of does feel like that, doesn't it? I mean, this team was perhaps a Bo Nix injury from taking down the Patriots and going to the Super Bowl. And
Stiddy couldn't get him there, man.
Stiddy. We had so much confidence in you, Stiddy. After the first couple drives, I was like, maybe this will happen. It did not happen. Spoiler. What a time. But yeah, like the continuity here is just kind of perfect. Like literally, like they're returning their entire defense. The offensive line is intact, and this was one of the best offensive lines in the league last year. All 5 starters are back. All they did was basically keep everybody on offense. Yeah, they added Jonah Coleman for depth, whatever. But then they take the 30th pick, which you're not getting a blue chip talent at 30, and they get Jalen Waddle with that pick. So it's like, from a roster perspective, this might be the most stable on both sides of the ball unit in the league. Like this is all theirs, in my opinion. So I'm with you. I do have some concerns on Bo Nix and just like his erratic play, and he's coming off the ankle procedure, and it's like maybe you don't go super heavy on the Broncos. Like don't go all in on everything with them, because yeah, chaos happens in the NFL, and we don't love to take overs. But I agree with you. The price is pretty intriguing here at 9.5, and like you said, if you did want to invest in then win the division, plus 225 is certainly an interesting price.
Yeah, on FanDuel, minus 110 for over 9.5 is probably the best line we're seeing. They won 14 games last year. Their win expectation, based on point differential, was 11 wins. So you might look at the 14 wins and be like, oh, they're due for regression. If this line was 10.5, I would go, okay, that makes sense. Like that's about right where I have them. I just feel like 9.5 is wildly low for a team that we know is super talented. And you might be saying to yourself out there, hey, they have a first place schedule, Kyle. I thought you always bring up that kind of stuff. Here are their first place games that they get. Jacksonville at home, at Pittsburgh, and at Carolina. Of all the ones we've brought up so far about their placement games, that is the easiest 3-pack of teams that they play. They also play at Arizona, they play Miami at home, and they play at the Jets. Their schedule is just wild for a first-place team. So they're the only team in the NFL to rank top 10 in pass rush and run stop on defense and pass block and run block on offense. So their trenches is great. We hope that Nix comes back. They upgraded Jalen Waddle. I feel like this is probably my strongest stance we've had so far.
I like it. I dig it. Yeah, 11th easiest.
And it's an over, which I don't love doing.
Don't love that either, but the numbers are the numbers, Kyle, and I agree with you, kind of all your points there. Yeah, they do have the 11th easiest schedule in the league. Looking at that, obviously their divisional matchups are going to be very tough, but you pointed out, I think this team has a really high floor from a win total perspective just because of some of those games, the Jets, the Cardinals, their air quotes first place games against like the Panthers, for example. It's like they're going to be favored in obviously all those games. So I'm with you. Let's go over 9.5.
Yeah, I could see this line moving. I mean, the overs right now just at minus 125 on one book, but minus 110 is a joke.
Let's take it.
Somebody is asleep at the wheel, and we're going to tell them to do a better job. Let's talk about the Chargers, though. I mean, could I talk you into...
No.
Yeah,
you can't.
I'm actually as much... I can't either. I looked at their schedule. I looked at everything we have in our projections. I will be rooting for this team with their offensive line back, with a play caller that we like, we know will be innovative. I think Justin Herbert, this is where I've come to, I think he will be more efficient this season while scrambling less and might not be as good for fantasy.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that for sure. I mean, we know McDaniel's offense, the play volume isn't usually there, but the efficiency is, so that makes sense to me.
I mean, they're going to have a ton of 21 personnel where they have fullback Alec Ingold, which is a McDaniel favorite.
Charlie Kohler
on the field
is going to be
Charlie
on the field.
Kohler. It's going to be David Njoku. Like, it's going to be kind of like spread around. And I kind of like that from a team building perspective. I feel like for fantasy, we're going to look up and be like, wait, what happened to Ladd this week?
Yeah.
Or Hampton didn't get the touchdowns we want. It was Keaton Mitchell, and then like Njoku scored the touchdowns.
Right.
So rooting for the Chargers, but probably just staying away from their line. The Chiefs, a team that usually doesn't get a third place schedule. They're at 10.5. The under is at -130. We've talked a lot about how the offense was not explosive and the run game was terrible, and they decided to add Kenneth Walker to the mix. Where are we at on Mahomes, like early season, and even can this offense be explosive? Like, I feel like it's been years since we've seen them truly like be dynamite. Like the last time to me was like Xavier Worthy winning you a bunch of money.
What a night. That was the best night ever. Eagles win the Super Bowl. Xavier Worthy, captain. Come on. Yeah, look, like the Chiefs offense, I think, is gone as what we've been hoping for. Like, I just think it's gone. It's not coming back this year. Because you look at, again, like the top targets in the offense are likely going to be Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. And it's like, and not Kelce of 4 years ago, like 37-year-old Travis Kelce. It's like, yeah, you're not going to provide huge plays down the field most likely with this version of the offense. And that's what we've seen the last couple of years. So I'd be surprised if it's different, especially with your quarterback who is your all-pro, all-whatever, all-world face of the franchise, coming off of a multi-ligament ACL injury. They've talked about this. They want to be more balanced early on in the season, rely on the defense, rely on Ken Walker. That's why they paid him, and kind of protect Mahomes a little bit, who was like their leading rusher in most games last season, right? It's like you cannot do that again this year. So I think Mahomes will be very limited from a ceiling outcome perspective early on. Not saying he won't get back to 100%. I do think he plays week 1, but it's just not going to be the same player that we saw at moments last year where it's like, you know, he's going to get sacked and he somehow comes out of it and picks up 6 yards. I don't think you'll see that much this year from a mobility standpoint. So I'm not betting against Mahomes and Reed. I just never do. But I think that the schedule and kind of getting that third place schedule and getting the 10th easiest in the league this year, nobody should be surprised if we look up and we're like, yep, the Chiefs won 11 games this year, because certainly the recipe is there. I just think with the Mahomes injury and some of the skill position players at pass catcher, the lack of depth there, I'm not going to bet it personally.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Just to give you some numbers, you talked about they wanted to run the ball. They were 30th in the league in rush rate this past year. That's really hard. They had one 20-plus yard run as a team. They were dead last in forced missed tackle rate. Like, you just can't win games like that, and then you get the injuries. So we'll probably stay away from the Chiefs and maybe figure out later on in the season if there's value on taking them to win the division or something else if they get hot. Let's finish with the Raiders. Their total's at 5.5, and when I do my schedule adjusted projections, I don't look at the over-unders. You know, that's not part of my process. So when I saw the Raiders projected for an over, I was like, all right, we're back. And then I see that on a bunch of books, I'm looking at BetMGM right now, the over is at -155. That is quite strong.
No, thank you. I'm scarred.
Yeah.
I'm scarred after last year.
Just never again.
Oh, man. I mean, I like Kubiak. There's a problem with the whole thing, though, is like, how many games is Kirk Cousins starting? We always think the number 1 overall quarterback is going to be good, and it's like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We don't really know, right? So there's a whole variable at quarterback, a first-time head coach. I love Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers is going to be amazing this season for fantasy. Behind him, there is a world that exists where Michael Mayer is their second most targeted pass catcher. Like, and that's a problem, right? Like, so like, I don't really know how the offense provides a ton of explosive plays outside of a big Genty run, a big Bowers play. And then you have Kirk Cousins, who's clearly not the player he was years ago and a rookie. It's like, yeah, the offense might be good, not great, and the defense has issues. So I think this is a team that could take a step this year. I would be surprised if they're putting up meaningful numbers to get to like 8 wins. You know, I'd be very, very surprised by that.
Yeah, it's just a price. I could see them getting to 6 wins, which is what I have them at. I think it's 6.1. And it's like, I'm not paying a minus 155 price.
Especially with a schedule that's 19th in the league.
Yeah, it's not really something on the radar. So just to recap, give me the ones that in the AFC that we feel strongest for or we're about to give out as officials. Because we will give it to the people, a couple of officials, and then this will come out on Friday. So just that early access, I mean, it changes things.
Changes everything. No, these don't move as much as props, so you'll probably be able to get the same lines, which is fun. You liked Ravens under 11.5, minus 130 on FanDuel. I liked Dolphins under 4.5, minus 105 on DraftKings. And then you liked the over on the Broncos, 9.5, minus 110 on FanDuel. And then did we land on an under in the AFC South? Are we going official Jaguars under? Or Texans under?
I think I lean on the Jaguars one, but we also had 2 bookmarks on the Patriots and Bills.
True.
To start the show.
True. We'll come back to those at a later date. But yeah. All right. Well, let's throw Jaguars in there. Jaguars under 9.5.
Oh, and I also, I got to mention this again. I don't mind the Bengals to win the division, the AFC North.
Makes sense.
It's kind of a fun one. So that's going to do it for this episode. We will be back next week to talk NFC. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, everybody enjoy the weekend. Enjoy these beautiful win totals bets that are obviously going to cash. And anytime you have a chance to tie up your money for 7 months, you absolutely have to do it. We'll be back next week to talk NFC. Excited for that one. We'll see you then. Have a good week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Traditional home security only alerts you after a break-in, and that's too late. Simply Safe is changing that.
Stop. This is Simply Safe. Police are on the way.
We don't just alert, we stop crime before it starts. Simply Safe, plan starting around $1 a day. Save 50% on your new system with professional monitoring at simplysafe.com/SXM or with promo code SXM.
Outdoor deterrence requires a Simply Safe Active Guard outdoor protection plan starting at $49.99 a month. Visit simplysafe.com/licenses for alarm license information. Tennessee 2012.
Close your eyes. Focus. Listen to work getting done with Monday.com. Relax as AI does the manual work, while your teams are aligned on a single source of truth. Feel the sensation of an AI work platform, so flexible and intuitive, it feels like it was built just for you. Notice you're limitless. Now open your eyes, go to Monday.com, start for free, and finally, breathe.